airport sa Davao hindi nakakalahati. You have been there, I'm sure. Hindi nakakalahati sa space. Walang ganito. Alam mo, ang anak kong babae may sentimento yan. Alam mo, gusto niya ang airport niya. Kasi mayor siya eh. Gusto niya ang Davao. Kung makita niya, hindi naman siguro baka inggit. Kaya may ano yan siya. Kasi ako ang nagpigil na yung first cabinet meeting nga namin. Sabi ko, unahin na ninyo ang buong Pilipinas. Huwag ang Davao. Ayaw kong makarinig na itong si Duterte, inuna niya kasi anak niya, gano'n. Sabi ko, wala kami. Kaya makita ninyong airport ng Davao nakakahiya. Ang liit. Tapos, hindi kasi yung ganda. Sabi ko nga yung mga taga Davao na galit. Ngayon nakita ko na ito. Sabi ko, lumipat na lang kayo sa Jensen para maganda yung airport na sa kinin. I'm very happy for you. But I'm sad for Davao City na baka hindi na maabot with a very limited time.
The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Prices of chicken and pork are on the rise as demand increases with the holidays fast approaching. Shaila Francisco tells us more.
Sisig, Bicol Express, and liempo are just some of the dishes available at this restaurant in Quezon City. The assistant manager says they've been cooking more of their best sellers with more customers dining in. So they double their orders of pork, chicken, and other ingredients from their suppliers.
Halos nagiging normal na. Ngayon po, lumuluwag na po tayo, gumaganda na po yung pagsiservisyo namin sa mga tao.
Increased demand like this is one of the reasons why chicken and pork prices have gone up. According to the Agriculture Department, prices of pork now reach up to 420 pesos. Chicken prices, meanwhile, have gone up by at least 10 pesos. Amid increased demand, supply remains tight. Aside from dealing with the effects of the African swine fever, some raisers have become more conservative in producing for fear of losses.
Natural naman yan dahil sa ibang bansa, pag nagbubukas na, nauuna yung demand bago sumusunod yung supply mo. Yung isa tayo sa huling nagbubukas ng ekonomiya, inabot na tayo nito mga problema sa presyo ng mga inputs katulad ng soya, ng mais, ng langis.
Producers say prices are expected to go up further as Christmas season nears. The DA has no decision yet on whether to impose a suggested retail price on pork since consultations are still ongoing. For now, the agency advises consumers to consider frozen varieties and other alternatives.
Instead of pork or beef, meron po tayong chicken, meron tayong fish. Pinakamurang protein source ay itlog.
Meanwhile, prices of Christmas packs are expected to go down. Supermarkets and suppliers are now preparing Christmas promos and discounts. They expect bulk of consumers to buy within the first 2 weeks of December. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
More than 680,000 doses of government-procured Moderna shots have arrived at the NAIA this morning. Total vaccine shipments to the Philippines have amounted to more than 130 million COVID-19 jabs. The government earlier assured the public that there will be enough supply of vaccines as the distribution of booster shots for priority groups begins. Get vaccinated before attending reunions. That's the Health Department's recommendation to the public as the holiday season draws near. In an interview with the chiefs, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says that people should prioritize getting vaccinated for the holidays. She also reminds everybody to observe minimum health standards when attending Christmas gatherings to prevent another spike in COVID-19 cases.
We are worried that cases will start increasing again. And remember, we are implementing the alert level system. Yung alert level system po, kasama dyan ang case trends. Pag tumataas na po ang kaso, yung alert level system, nasi-signal niya, mapupunta sila sa higher alert level. Pag napunta sa higher alert level, mas marami na uling restrictions. So we won't have the Christmas that we want. So we are asking our kababayans na sana po tulong-tulong tayo para po sa Pasko, ganito pa rin po, bukas.
President Rodrigo Duterte says there are still things that he wants to achieve in the government. That's why he ditched his earlier plan to retire from politics after his term as president. However, Duterte did not elaborate what these goals were, but said that there's always a time for everything. Recall that back on October 2, the chief executive announced that he will retire from politics, but he surprised many by filing his COC for senator last November 15.
There are just things which I have to do before retiring, but not really staying for something na it's no longer our time. Ang buhay, it's always a time for everything. A time to be great, a time to be small, a time to be a shining star, but a time to fade. And just maghanap ko na lang ng kanto kung saan ba kakasya.
Apple will soon begin making parts and tools available for customers to fix their own devices. This is a significant shift in the long-standing policies over who can repair these costly gadgets. Bloomberg Quick Take's Alex Webb reports.
If you've ever smashed the screen of your iPhone, you'll know that getting it repaired is not only a colossal pain in the neck, it can be massively expensive. That may all be about to change. Apple is introducing a program it's calling self-service repair that will let you repair your device at home with parts bought from Apple and a manual provided by Apple. It's a response in many ways to the right to repair movement, which has gained pace in recent years. Whereas it used to be quite straightforward to repair electronic devices, perhaps 25 or 30 years ago, as they've grown more complex and proprietary, it's got harder and harder. Now we're seeing a wave of legislation in the works. In the European Union, towards the end of next year, there's likely to be legislative proposals that not only standardize the spare parts for each device, but also ensure that their pricing is reasonable. That's where Apple comes in. They seem to be getting ahead of some of this legislation with their own proposals. But the devil will, of course, be in the detail of what Apple's solution looks like. How expensive are the parts going to be? Could you count them as reasonable? And also, how easy will it actually be to do this yourself?
There are plenty of videos online to explain how it's done, but most customers, we estimate only 5% of customers in the market will actually repair their own device, whereas 95% will go to a professional. If you're going to get it wrong, it's quite costly. And whilst in many ways devices have become easier to repair and more intuitive, I would say, there is also many risks involved in terms of, one little bit of damage to the logic board or one tear of a flex cable could render a significant part of the device damaged entirely.
Right now, to get an iPhone screen fixed by Apple, it'll cost you in the region of $280. For a battery to be replaced, it'll cost you about $70 if you do it with Apple itself. The difference in price to do it at home will be a really important data point, and that's where the detail lies. For the longest time, Apple said that it opposed repairs being done by people that weren't licensed or just users doing it at home. It said that it was dangerous, that it risked creating fires if you open the back of your smartphone. This is therefore a huge handbrake turn, but does quite a lot to burnish Apple's green credentials.
Should social media app TikTok be used as an official platform to educate kids? Lawmakers weighed in on this idea during the deliberations for the Education Department's 2022 budget. Let's get the details in this report from Arian Calumbira.
TikTok for teaching. The Education Department says this is one of the platforms they are eyeing to utilize or develop as a learning tool for children. The suggestion was brought up during the Senate hearing for the agency's budget. It was argued that the app can be an effective medium for learning, considering its appeal to the younger population.
Obviously, that's not the main means of learning, but if they can learn something through through TikTok and make it more exciting, this is a gamification theory which is proven to be very effective. So I think that's an interesting avenue to explore.
However, senators have mixed sentiments about this proposal. Senator Pia Cayetano says she's open to the idea as children can both enjoy and learn through the app. Cayetano says the use of TikTok could make learning more appealing for children.
You can also have teachers who are enjoying their career as teachers, fulfilling their goals. Maybe they wanted to change the world and they're assigned to a beautiful beach or a beautiful mountain. And they could be on TikTok saying this is the best job in the world.
But the chairman on basic education himself, Senator Win Gatchalian, has some reservations. He notes that even some teachers are getting into trouble due to misuse or excessive use of TikTok.
To also be careful with TikTok. I recall reading a DepEd teacher who got into trouble because of excessive TikToking.
Senator Francis Tolentino, who is a former law professor, says he is also not comfortable with the idea of using popular social media apps for teaching. Arian Kalumbiran, we are One News.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. President Duterte has a fresh set of tirades against the alleged cocaine-using presidential candidate. Chief Executive says this presidentiable snorts drugs in private planes and yachts. The Health Department warns of another surge in COVID-19 infections if the public will be complacent. And the annual Paskong Manileño kicks off in the nation's capital. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us again later at 2 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.
Check, 1, 2, 3.